Hello, this is Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech doing a review of Arena of the Planeswalkers, the board game. Yes, the board game. A little bit odd that I just talked about adding board game content to the channel, and we end up with a Magic board game to review. Thank you so much to Bebo, who was able to help me get a copy of this. I greatly appreciate it. It comes out officially on August 1st. Some game stores do have a few copies of it, so you might want to look around your local game store, see if they've got any. It is a really interesting game. It is a combat-based minis game with a few pre-painted miniatures. It's designed to play 2 to 4 players, and I think it's going to be best at 4 players. I played it a few times at 2 players, and I see how a lot more tension could be put into the game at 4, so I look forward to giving it a shot at 4. It's pretty simple. I would recommend it for kids maybe even 8 and up. The box says 10 and up. I would go with kids younger than that. The concepts are pretty easy. There is a pretty good amount of reading involved. I think they could have converted some of the text into some iconography and standardized the spells. As long as you help younger kids with the reading, they'll be fine. It's pretty quick to run through. A fast game will go as short as 15 minutes, and a long game's not going to run much more than 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I would consider this a light game and an intro game. It's definitely a minis tactics game. If you're familiar with Heroscape, it is Heroscape. It's 90% the same game. It uses the same terrain system. Heroscape, I don't believe, is being produced any longer. My guess is that Hasbro just had the rights and decided to reskin it for Magic the Gathering. I'm pretty divided about this choice. I think there are some stronger intro mini games out there. This particular game does have a pretty good following, and everybody I know who's really liked this so far was an old Heroscape fan. It comes with pre-painted and unpainted miniatures. Here's Chandra and 2 of her phoenixes. The miniatures really are the best part of the game. The Planeswalkers are amazing. Let's take a second and look at each of those Planeswalkers. We've got Gideon, Jace, Liliana, Chandra. Nissa seems to be hiding. And we've got Nissa. Not all of the figures are painted. There are a significant number of unpainted figures. In fact, most of the figures in the box are unpainted. I think if you're going to have a really great experience with this, I would find a friend or you yourself paint them. The painted figures just look so much better. It has this raised terrain and some rules around it. It also has obstacles in it, and those little black areas there are glyphs. Basically, if you control that spot, they add a bonus to everybody on your team. Each of the Planeswalkers has a different amount of life. They've also each got special abilities. The pros for this game are definitely the Planeswalkers. The Planeswalkers are well designed. They've got cool abilities to them. The miniatures are beautiful. Very, very well done overall. The cons to the game is that the rulebook leaves something to be desired. As a Magic player, I'm used to being able to reference the rules and figure out everything about the game. There were several areas where myself and MaggyBot, who is also another Magic player, but a big board game player also, just couldn't figure out exactly what was going on in the game according to the rules. For example, if you are to summon one of your minions on a glyph, does that activate the glyph? The glyph section talks about movement and moving on to them, but doesn't seem to take into account the idea of being summoned directly on the glyph. The other piece of this is that the combat felt like we were rolling large dice pools against each other, hoping that the 1/3 chance or the 50% chance on the dice would come up. They're actually weighted dice that have a 50% chance to hit and a 1/3 chance to defend. I like tactic games like chess where there's a lot of calculation going on. I don't care for non-tactical games like roulette. I think this game weighs a little bit heavily towards the roulette side of things as opposed to the chess side of things. Overall, it's a solid game, an intro basic minis game. If you are interested in miniatures and you want the theme of Magic the Gathering as a way to kind of break into miniatures, it's very well done. If you're looking for a very strong, well thought out, balanced game, this is not the miniatures game for you. I would recommend looking at something like Crossmaster, where the rules have really been refined a bit more. Overall, as a Magic player, I liked this. If you want to see how it actually plays, I would check out Turbo Donkey's playthrough of it. It's kind of a very typical playthrough. I would say that each side isn't as balanced as I was hoping. I think that having 2v2 teams will help deal with some of the planeswalkers that are better than other planeswalkers as you have that team. I wish they had put a little bit more work into the rule book. I mean, another piece of that was the turn tracker is in the rule book, and you've got this little piece of cardboard to put on the turn tracker that then when you pick the rule book up to reference a rule, you drop the turn tracker and forget where you are. Simple fix for that is just have a pair of 10-sided dice and keep track of the turns. You're never going to go over 50 turns. The base game only has 30. Super easy way to keep track. Much better than the inelegant solution of printing your scenarios in the back of the book and using a piece of cardboard on those to keep track of your turns. A little more development could be a really strong, interesting game. I think it's really targeted more at a casual audience and an intro audience. It'll do really well in that area. If you'd like to see more Magic the Gathering content or even a bit of board game content, please mind steal that subscribe button and become a follower of the channel. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech. Thank you to everybody who's over there on Patreon. The speculation and investment video for July is going to be out in the next 2 days. We're also working on a modern top 10 list of decks to be prepared for when going into Friday Night Magics or into major Grand Prix.